Hey everyone, Laura here, and there's been a lot going on. I mentioned in my last video that I had my first IVF, and unfortunately, it wasn't successful. So, my husband and I are going to try again next month in January, and we're hoping for the best. So, that was a loss for me, and I realized how much it was helping me wade through all the pain that I am experiencing in the dementia journey. So I know that my channel is called Joy in Dementia. And while I have a pretty optimistic perspective and I can find joy in the moment, and I think it's important for us to do that, I also want to be really honest with you and say that right now I'm having a really hard time finding joy in dementia. And the best way I can explain it, and I think you'll be able to understand because you're going through it too, is ever since my dad was diagnosed, I feel like I'm basically like death by paper cut, right? So I actually wrote a poem about this last night because my husband said to me, "No, I can understand how you're feeling sad." And when he said that, all these emotions came up in me, and it was really hard to explain to him what the dementia journey is like. And so it came out in the form of a poem, and it was talking about how it is so much more than sadness. It's emotions that you never knew that you'd feel so strongly at the same time, day after day. Terror, embarrassment, compassion, anger, betrayal, loneliness, abandonment. I mean, these are all the super tough emotions that we normally automatically tell ourselves to suppress. And it's really important that we express those, because I've mentioned this in my emails if you have been on my list, but there's so many different kinds of grief with dementia. And I think the part that's the hardest is that it's like, again, death by paper cut, right? We have no closure because there is no finality to, it's not just like someone died this today and we can then have closure and move forward, right? It's like, it feels like a part of our forgetful parent is dying each step in this journey, each loss that they have. And it's so hard to hold when we don't know how much time is left, and we don't know how our heart can keep withstanding this pain, right? So I kind of described it as there's so many paper cuts and slices in my heart, and I haven't been able to really help them heal because I'm constantly bleeding, right? So, yeah, I had this kind of final loss with the IVF process not being successful, and then I have this ongoing loss, right? And so before I go forward and give you those tips that I learned, I want to introduce myself after the longest introduction, the beginning of this video ever. But my name is Laura Smothers Chu, and I am the CEO and founder of Befriended Heart, where I help daughters navigate their parents' dementia. I'm wondering if you are able to resonate with the idea of the dementia journey being so much more than sad, and how hard it is to grieve each loss along the way. And if we do, we feel like we don't have enough time to grieve that, right? Because we're just like trying to plan for the future. Or even with, befriended heart and these tips that I teach you, it's like we're constantly planning ahead, we're constantly making decisions that we just feel like we don't have time to sit and breathe and hold our emotions. So while that's probably not going to be completely possible until our forgetful parent passes away, it's important for us to take the breaths that we can and process those feelings as much as we can as soon as we notice a loss, because that's how we keep ourselves going, right? Like, this is a super long journey and we don't know when the end is coming. So that's why it's so important to take these breaks. And that's something that I realized myself again this week, and realized that I was staying up late, like reading celebrity gossip, which is like totally outside of my character, and waking up late, and then I wouldn't have eaten breakfast and it threw off my whole schedule, and I forgot to take, my prenatal medicine and things like that. And if you notice those things, that's your body and your mind telling you that there's something that you need to grieve and that you need to hold in love. One great way of grieving the loss in this dementia journey, the best one that I've heard of, is from my friend and colleague, Dr. Lisa Baker. And I hope to be interviewing her next year, actually, about the grief process. But she recommends lighting a candle for each loss. And I love that idea, and I've started doing it, and I think it's the best tangible way for me to honor that part of my dad that is no longer there, or that's not the reality anymore. So what I do, and I did this earlier this week, and I feel like it really helped me, so I hope that you'll try it out and just see if it helps you. I had a particularly difficult day. I am now assisting with showers for my dad because he can start to be aggressive when they need to change his underwear or get him to shower. So there was that, and then there was a time where he's also having trouble moving around when he wants to. And what they mean by that is, like, when I came to visit him, he was on the floor, anxious and upset, and I tried to help him up from the floor. And because he's like 6'2" and about 170 pounds, I am not that strong. So I was trying to show him in small steps how to get up from the floor himself, and he just wasn't able to do it. And just seeing the anguish in his eyes, that he knew what he needed to do, but his legs weren't listening, like, that just pierced my heart. And as we're talking about, death by paper cut, that absolutely sliced my heart. So kind of all those combinations of things, and then it's really important for us to be happy and upbeat and not show that emotion, because otherwise our forgetful parent is going to pick up on that and it'll just make everyone stressed. So we've sort of learned to suppress it for the time being and kind of compartmentalize and deal with it later, but then it's hard to actually deal with it later, right? You really need to let yourself release. And so a really good way to do this is, as I said, I came home and I lit a candle, lighting, the loss that my dad his brain can no longer talk to his legs to help him stand up. And the fact that he is afraid of the water in showers now, that's a loss, that he used to love swimming. He used to love water, right? So I lit the candle. I dimmed the lights. I put on some really relaxing music, and I made myself a cup of tea, like a, herbal tea that was very aromatic, and gave myself that time to grieve and release and really get in touch with my feelings and just close my eyes and really figure out exactly what emotions I was feeling and then holding those in love. So I hope that you'll be able to try this technique, and I'd love to hear if you're familiar with any of these feelings that I'm talking about. I think regardless of whatever stage we're in the dementia journey, we're always feeling those little paper cuts, right? And we're not able to fully heal them. So there's a lot of pain in that. And I'm not gonna gloss over it or say that, everything is joy in dementia all the time, right? I am also in this journey with you, and so I'm feeling that pain too. So I hope that's helpful, and I will talk to you next month. Happy holidays. Bye.